Me, I was a what we like to call a finesser. Hey, sometimes you gotta learn when to fold them or know when to walk away. One day, I lost it all. You keep going until you lose it all.
What's up, everybody? My name is Trent, and this is Crucifying Addiction. Man, we got something interesting for y'all because it's just me here. Bailey's in Waco, learning how to take apart a diesel engine. But I do got a special guest for you guys. Go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
What's up, y'all? I'm Colby. That's my full government.
Full government.
Yeah, nothing much to me. Just want to kind of share my testimony with y'all today and see how it goes.
Cool, Colby. So, what do you do for work?
Right now, I'm an operator at an oil field company. So we make different chemicals and whatnot. And so we're the ones that are batching the chemicals up, loading it into trailers, and getting it ready for the transport team to take out to different locations.
Sounds like good money.
It's definitely a blessing for sure. I don't take it for granted,
Cool. You been in San Angelo your whole life?
Yeah, born and raised, born right there in Shannon. We call it the 5, I don't know if anyone calls it the 5 but me, but that's what I like, because 3 plus 2, if y'all don't know, equals 5, and that's our area code, 325. So that's where that came from.
Man, I gotta be honest, like, you have just transformed over the last 3 months. So, like, just not just like the thought processes, but I mean just the way you carry yourself, the mannerisms. I mean, there's just something on you, man. Just seeing growth just out of since I've met you. Seem like a man that's just always growing, always changing.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it has to do just with me knowing too much now, I feel like I've been exposed to God in a certain way to where I would feel evil in my heart if I were to willingly and knowingly do things that go against his will, And yeah, everyone slips up every now and then, and everybody has days, right? But it's a clear difference for me is my conscience in general, because whenever I lived in sin and I was just jaded to it, I had no type of feeling towards it. I just did it so naturally, And at that time, it just wasn't really a thought process whenever it came to it. I really never really felt bad about certain actions that I would, have and responses that I would have. But now it's just like completely different. Like, I feel like my eyes are open in a certain way,
Man, I'm excited to hear about this. So, go ahead and tell us what it was like growing up. Where does it start, and what is your addiction?
Well, growing up, single parent household, my mom raised me along with the help of my grandmother and my grandfather. She worked 3 jobs from whenever I was born until like 12, 13, and maybe even longer than then. So my mom in my household was always the person that I looked to. She was always the person that, regardless of the situation, I never felt like I had less. There was never a time where I felt like I didn't have. I always had food. I always had. Christmas came around. Yeah, I'd get like one present, but it was like the present I wanted though, So it's just, my mom, she definitely had a good poker face, I would say, my whole childhood. And slowly as time goes by, you see that kind of peel back a little bit. But I'd say most of my childhood, it was great, My father was never really around, but I'm just so young, I just think, he's probably busy doing something else, or, I always used to make up stories about my dad not really being there. I'd be like, oh, he's out fighting alligators, because I forgot what that dude's name was, but, he'd be on the TV, like, catching alligators and looking at different animals and stuff. He died. I think he got stung by a stingray.
Yeah, the crocodile hunter.
Uh-huh.
I can't remember his name now.
Yeah, he was so cool to me as a kid, so I'd be like, yo, he's out there catching alligators or doing something crazy. But nah, he was just working a normal job just like everybody else, just living 10 minutes away, but, just never came around really. So I never really talk about it too much because I just feel like, yeah, it did affect me, but who really cares? That's how I felt about it a lot of the time. And that's just my honest to God opinion. Like, I'm still going to have to be the one to get up and, get what I want at the end of the day. I'm not going to sit there and try to blame him for anything. In fact, I actually told him, I was like, thank you for bringing me into this world. You might be a cool person. I might never know, but I'm just thankful for what you did give me in my life. And, yeah, that was it. And I told him, hey, maybe we can catch up one day. And then, yeah, so that's about it. But childhood wise, good childhood. Love my grandma. She is like everything to me, honestly. She's the one that made me really believe in the spirit. Not really the word yet, because I compartmentalize things. So I feel like the spirit and the word are two different things. Some people, you can feel the spirit on them, but they're not exactly sharp in the word. They don't really have that yet, right? But she's the one that made me feel the spirit, because every time she'd pray over me in Spanish, I didn't even know what she was saying, but I just felt good, So that's really one of the people that kind of made me feel like, there's something to this. And yeah, I really like growing up in San Angelo. I have good friends, good family here. It's a small town. Everybody knows each other. It's kind of weird, Sometimes you want to see new faces or whatever, but for the most part, I could do whatever I wanted, which is a good and a bad thing. That's pretty much how I explain it. Just real easy living, going about my day to day, trying to have a blast. That's how I explain it.
So when did it get not that way? Like, when would that childhood description change?
Whenever you start to see the people, your role models, you start to see the mask, kind of the person behind the mask of who they portrayed to you as a kid, That's one thing I've noticed is time's always going to show your hand, right? Like seeing my mom, and she'd always put on a good poker face whenever she'd come home from a long shift or whatever. But getting older, I just realized, I was like, man, my mom looks just hollow inside sometimes, like, and work can really do that to you. Now that I know, work can be draining. You don't want to do anything. Sometimes when you get off, you don't have the energy to do anything. You just want to just lay there and just rest, and you can see that. And that would always make me feel like I need to get as much money as I possibly can. That's where I feel like my love for money had started. I would start, trying to look for ways to earn money. I remember in elementary school, I would try to, draw little pictures and get it like a Pokemon, and then I'd sell them at school for 5 cents so I can buy an ice cream, And then in middle school, I was a really big sneakerhead, so I knew how to clean shoes. So that's what I do constantly. I just be like, hey, you need your shoes cleaned? I can clean them for, whatever, $5 or whatever. And I'd make them look as close to dead stock as possible, right? So that's just where, I got a little hustle going, I've always had a hustle to me. No matter what it was, what little I had to work with, me and my friends, we call it turning bologna into steak. Like, yeah, you're dealt these cards in life, but ultimately, what are you going to do with it? Seeing my mom go through that, and man, it still hurts me a little bit. Even though we're, in a way better position than we were, there was just rough times, man, and just seeing my mom cry, like, just seeing sometimes the lights getting cut off in the house or whatever. My mom's stressed out because she's not going to know how we're going to get this or that. And, that really affected me more than I knew at the time. Now that I look back on it, that's where I think a lot of my pressure, I would say, was as a lad, was to try to get a job or something, or trying to always find something to get money with. That's whenever I'd say around that 11 to 13ish area where I noticed like, okay, something's not all the way right. You start to notice the difference between yourself and your peers almost, you know? That's whenever it really starts to kick in like, hey, I don't got those certain shoes, or like, oh, my friend, he's poloed down to the socks. I'm over here wearing like the big USPA collared shirts and stuff. Like, you start to notice little things like that. And as a kid, no, I want that. So I tried my hardest to go get it.
How'd that work out? What'd you do for that?
It's all started with just my little side hustles, and then whenever I was 14, I actually did this program to where you could get a job right over the summer. And that whole summer, I just worked. It was at the water department of the city of San Angelo. And I was sitting there filing papers and inputting them into a computer at 14
What?
for hours. 8 hours a day. I look around at all the people around me, and everybody just looks sad. Like, I'd walk into the room and I just feel like everything's like gray right now, Like, it just felt like there was a filter over that room. And
Sounds like a sweatshop.
yeah, it just, I told myself I'm never going to have an office job. That's just not going to be me, I just knew at that point, even though I know like some office jobs, they do pay a lot, or whatever. But me personally, I gotta work manual labor or something. I feel like that's where that came from, kind of like what I'm doing today almost. But, that love of money, just, okay, nothing's ever going to be enough. Now I realize that now, just barely. There's never going to be enough money in your pocket that's going to make you happy. Hate to break it to y'all. There's never going to be enough money to where you feel good in life. So the fact that we just go to work and we put these things over other things in life, it can lead you in a very dark place, So I'd say in high school was whenever it got kind of bad for me, in a sense where now I noticed I had a problem where I remember one time I had quit my job at Market Street, and my mom was like, okay, well, if you don't want to work, I'm going to give you $5 a day for lunch. And at that time, there's a little sandwich shop, right? And she was like, here's your $5, go get you a sandwich and a drink or whatever for lunch, right? And then I was like, man, I want 2 sandwiches. What I would do was I'd go in the restrooms, literally, and I'd be shooting dice with my friends for like half of that period before lunch. We'd be in the restrooms shooting dice, right? Sometimes I'd lose it all. I would go hungry that day, not knowing what I'm going to eat, just sitting there starving like, man. But it was always the chance of winning. The chance of winning is just like intoxicating almost. And so guess where I was the next day doing the same thing. And despite my problems that I had the day before, I didn't care. I was like, the chance of me winning $15 compared to me having 5 just starting out, like, what? Are you crazy? Like, I'm going back in that restaurant. I'm trying to get my money back. So that's just where, it all started. Innocent as that, just little $5 games. And then it gets worse. Whenever you start gambling, you try to treat everything like you're gambling. Even with your life sometimes, My whole high school, I smoked weed, right? So I never really had the need to drink. So I was just a stoner all throughout high school. Like, me and my friends wake up first thing in the morning. We'd all be hitting our little pens before school, and we go to school all messed up and just sit there in front of the teacher just drooling like some idiots, just like completely spaced out. And at the time, those are some of the best times of my life. Like just having fun with my friends, listening to music, like just trying to not worry about anything.
So was it having fun or was it hiding from the fears of your responsibilities?
Hiding from the fears of my responsibilities, 100%. 100%. I never really felt like I had the strength to face my fear or my responsibilities, Me, I was a what we like to call a finesser. I wasn't in there to see, okay, how can I earnestly, honestly get this good grade on this test? No, I'm not going to study. I'm going to be smoking weed the whole time I should be studying. And I'm going to go in there and then I'm going to cheat off the smart girl that sits next to me in class. And, I thought I got away with it. And it's so funny.
Turning bologna into steaks.
Mm-hmm. Turning bologna into steak. Yes, sir. That's what I thought it was. Honestly, you just put that bologna in the fridge, brother. You just saved it for another day.
It's just bologna.
It's just bologna because you get to college and you're like, wait a minute. Y'all ain't going to teach that? No, y'all should have already learned that in high school. Oh, okay. But yeah, and it's funny because this girl that I always used to cheat off of, shout out to her. She told me the next year, I remember, because one of my friends was talking to me, and me being prideful and full of ego, my friend was like, "Oh man, how'd you get through pre-AP chemistry?" I was like, "Oh man, that was nothing. I was just chilling." I was just, she was like, "Man, those tests were hard, weren't they?" I was like, "Yeah, it was like." And then the girl, she was sitting there, she was like, I knew that you were cheating off me every day, right? And I saw you looking at my sheet on the test. And I just kind of looked at her. I was like, oh, for real? Like, whenever you're caught in a lie bad and your face turns red, bro, and you just sitting there like, man.
Yeah, she called you out.
Yeah, she called me out big time. But I deserved it,
Mm-hmm.
It was the truth. And usually I try to lie my way out of it. But I was like, hey, you got me. Hey, sometimes you got to learn when to fold them. Or know when to walk away. So that was kind of like me in a nutshell growing up. Always a procrastinator, always was on my back foot, but somehow found a way to make things all right. Fast forwarding, I get out of high school. I absolutely despised college, College was it was fun doing everything other than going to class and actually doing what you're supposed to be there to do. And this is where my choice my freedom of choice was the strongest, because I'm at a space where I can choose whether or not I want to go to class, right? I can choose whether I show up to class that day. My mom's at work. I'm kind of just out here, just doing whatever I want. This is where the gambling started getting bad or worse. So did the drinking, and so did the smoking. And I would say those are my 3 addictions. Yes, I have multiple. I have multiple, not just one.
You sound like a alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. Anything that I do, I go all or nothing, Anything that I like to do, rephrase that, because if it was everything, I would have been a scholar or something. Who knows,
Right.
But it was literally just the things that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's whenever things started to get more intense in life. And not so much the alcohol just yet, but it was more of the gambling and the weed smoking. I started trying to sell weed now so that I can smoke for free and I'd have a little bit of change in my pocket, right?
Mm.
Looking back on myself now, I'm like, I was risking time in jail for this. For what? For nothing at all. Something that you're going to burn away. Something that has no importance, does not help you in life, something that is just you don't need, I didn't see that though. All I saw was, nah, I'm gonna get high and I'm gonna have some money in my pocket, right? So what I would do with that money, this leads back into gambling. I'd take that money and I would buy Bitcoin with it. And with this Bitcoin, there's these online casinos essentially that you can play these games. It's basically gambling. I remember one day I hit my first win. I turned $10 into $100. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna walk away now. So I stopped, turned off my computer, and went on about life. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try that again. So I go back in and I essentially turn that 100 into like $2,500. Just playing various different games on this website. I'm not gonna shout it out because it's bad. Don't go on there. It's not good for you. And then another day, I keep winning. I just keep winning. All of a sudden, my balance on there, I had about $10,000 worth of Bitcoin on that account, right?
Oh dang.
Yeah. It got serious to where I'm just staying up all night. There'd be nights where I'd lose like 5,000 and then I'd keep playing until I broke even. And that'd be like all-nighters just on this game, not making it to class. I'm not showering, bro. I'm not doing nothing. I'm just playing this game for hours and just like a drone almost, And I don't ever tell anyone this story at all. I don't know. Nowadays I get embarrassed about stuff like this cuz I'm just such a different human now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
One day I lost it all. You keep going until you lose it all. I kept telling myself, I'm going to make it back. I've been down way more than this. And then it got to the point where, okay, I haven't been down as much as this, but I can definitely make something back. Until there's nothing, no hope left. Everything's gone. And you're just kind of sitting there stuck in your room. And I remember I cried. I cried at that moment.
Shoot, man. I mean, $10 into like 10,000. Could have walked away and got a car.
Yeah.
You know?
Thanks, Trent. Thank you for that.
Well, I was kind of thinking, like, man, when you were sharing that, I was like, I like to give like a, well, look at the bright side type of response. I was thinking, well, if you think about it, when you lost it all, you lost $10. So I thought about it, but then I was like, I don't know how many days you were doing that, man. Like, if you could look back and say, somebody said, hey, give me $10 and I will just take a couple weeks of your life away from you.
Oh, man. I mean, yeah, I never thought about it like that.
I mean,
Jeez. Yeah. It makes me sweat just thinking about it because I just remember that feeling that day. I started crying and I said, why, God? Why? Why are you doing this to me? What did I do, God? Like, please, God, just help me get my money back. Like, oh, man.
Sounds like a real prayer.
Nah, not at all, man. That was, I don't like that, I don't like the way I prayed, like how I used to pray, I felt it always came from a bad place in my heart. It never came from like a good, wholesome place in my heart, And now that's really important to me. But anyways, I ended up losing it all, and I'm like, whatever. And I guess it's a blessing because that it's a blessing and a curse because that was one of the reasons why I even started buying cryptocurrency. And now I have a portfolio and I'm actually doing pretty all right for myself, And this whole time I'm doing this, mind you, shooting dice in the restroom, losing all my money, playing this game. I'm up. I don't know when to walk away. and I lose everything, I still don't think I have a problem, you know? I still think in chain smoking joints, uh, in my mom's driveway. Oh man, I was a mess this whole time. And then I turned 21. Mind you, before this, I never drank at all. I've seen drinking do horrible things to people in my family, you know. I've seen premature heart attacks. I've seen my grandpa lose literally everything, all because of the love of alcohol, you know, and alcoholism. And then I turned 21. And in turning 21, you know, it's nothing special or anything. But you do, in a sense, unlock a little superpower, which we like to call, now you can buy alcohol, right? It starts off, you just drinking with your friends, having a good time, not thinking much of it, right? Then it turns into, well, I'm bored tonight. Let me just go get a drink real quick and then smoke a little joint. I'll feel a little better. Then it turns into, you're drinking every night because you're kind of a sad human, you know, at that point. I know it sounds like I'm kind of fast forwarding. Obviously, it took a little bit. There was some time in between those phases, but ultimately, if you're drinking excessively, not too many of us are going to end up in great places in life, you know? Whenever you mix certain addictions, right? Like alcoholism gives you confidence, then you start to gamble with not just money, but you start to gamble with your life in a sense, because you bet on yourself, right? So say I'd get drunk. I'd be like, I bet I can get myself home right now. I'd hop in the car, drunk and high, and then I'd smoke on top of that. That leads into you gambling with your life. Like hopping into, not just gambling on your life, gambling on anybody else's life on the road, right? Because there's plenty of times I've woken up in my bed and I'm like, how did I get here? And it freaked me out. But this is where addiction comes into play. And despite the problems that you've had, or it might cause you being late for work, dropping out of school, even though your school was paid for, you know, just a whole bunch of stuff. You don't really care. You don't at all. It's not as important as your next high. Yeah, it's not as important. Nothing that wasn't important to me except how am I going to drink and how am I going to smoke and how am I going to get the money to do so.
So, did you get a DWI?
Oh, that's a great question, man. I'm glad you asked that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I thought that's where you were going.
A year and a couple months later, after I turned 21, mind you, I never really drank before I even turned 21. Now I'm 21 and I'm sitting here with a DUI. It was a late night. Me and my friends were coming home from a bar. What was I doing? Playing pool. For what? Money. Man, that's crazy. How it all just came to one singularity. Smoking. Had weed in my sock. I always kept it in my sock because there was actually a Playboy Cardi song that said hide it in my sock. And I just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Just like an idiot. Oh, I was an idiot, man. I say this in our small group all the time. If I can go back in time and slap the mess out of myself, if I could just go back in time and say, what are you doing? And slap myself in the face, I would do so. Back to my DUI. We're leaving the bar now, 2 a.m. We're cruising back down, open containers in the car. Cop stops me. And the reason for him stopping me was because my license plate was out. And I was like, okay, you know, I was nervous, yes. I'm always nervous around the police. That's just how I grew up. My grandpa always told me, do not trust them. They're not your friends. They're not trustworthy people. Which, he was projecting his fears on me. And similarly enough, me and my grandpa are a lot similar in a lot of ways, with our addictions. But anyways, I get pulled over. He puts me through the whole test. I'm doing every test. Just walk in the straight line, follow the pin with your eyes. Can you stand on one leg for a certain amount of time? And then, he took me to the clink. He took me to the clink. He said, we're going to breathalyze you, but we're going to take you down to the station. Went down to the station. Impounded my car. I remember my mom, she pulled up. She was yelling at the cop, what are you doing with my son? Oh, where are you taking him? And I was just staring out the window.
Yeah.
In cuffs. Anybody that's been in the back of a police car, that is the worst, one of the worst feelings.
Gosh.
I don't know. I don't know if you can relate, Trent.
Bro.
But do you know what I mean? Do you know that feeling?
Yeah, man.
You know it?
I think I've been in the back of a cop car like 7 times. But one time, he gave me a ride somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, so I wasn't in handcuffs that one time.
You were tripping. You were just like, yeah, get a ride.
Yeah. I asked him for a ride,
and
he was like...
You asked the cop for a ride? Are you crazy?
All right, quick side story. All right, going to a marriage retreat out in Junction.
Oh.
Got my wife in the truck, and this is our first time taking this truck out of town. I didn't realize that the thing was low on gas when we left town, and so like the gas light came on, and I was like, "Oh, I can make it. 12 more miles, man. The gas light just came on." I always thought you had 50 miles to eat when the gas light came on. Uh-huh. Anyway, it was a bunch of hills, and I remember at the top of the hill that thing shut off, and I just rolled it. I was like, all right, let's see how far we go, because I knew we were getting close, but I was going to have to walk the rest of the way into town. Mm-hmm. And we roll up, and when that truck comes to a stop, I get off on the side of the highway, and there's a trooper right there, right where the car dies. I get out, walk over there. I'm like, hey, man, just ran out of gas. I see the gas station is just like 1.5 miles down the street right there. You think you can give me a ride of this so I can get a gas can? He's like, sorry, man, I can't do that. And so I was like, all right. So I hand my wife my gun. I'm like, I'll be right back. And I start walking. And as soon as I get out of the sight of the trooper, he pulls up and he says, get in the car. I'll give you a ride. So I get in, and then he just drops me off. Like, I have to walk back. But that was the one time that I was actually sitting in the back of a car.
So you had the gun on you while you was in the back of a police car?
No, I gave it to my wife because I was about to leave her on the side of the highway by herself.
That's scaring me, boy, because you know how them police officers get. Does he have a weapon? But anyways, yeah. That's another thing. Whenever you're right in life and you walking in good faith, you're not really scared of too much. I'm not scared of too much no more, There's one thing I am scared of, and that's God not knowing me, I would say.
I'll tell you this. You can look the world in the face when you have brought all of your shadows into the light. Mm-hmm. Nothing scares you anymore, because what we're really afraid of is our own responsibilities,
our own skeletons.
Yeah.
What we got going on.
So being in the back of that cop car, this DUI, going to jail, was this like? Did they breathalyze you at the jail? By the way,
yes.
That cop was doing you a favor. Mm-hmm. He was letting time go by so that you might not check out too high when you breathe into that thing. Mm-hmm. Pretty sweet.
Most people, they start talking mess to the cops or whatever. Or they start trying to act tough with them. I was like, thank you guys for doing y'all's job. You make the streets a lot safer. Y'all are great people.
What?
In my mind, I'm like, ooh, I'm hot. I'm like, ooh, if I could just slap this dude. He was like, he's making like little jokes too and stuff like that. And oh man, it was just a really weird.
You weren't laughing.
No, I wasn't laughing at all. I was like in the back of the cop car, like tears coming to my eyes because I just seen it felt like a movie. My mom's yelling at the cop. The cop was like, hey, step back. And then my sister's over there arguing with him too, and I'm just in the back with the lights, like looking out the window, like like a little, things I don't want to say, and and it's just kind of funny looking back on it now. But at the time, yeah, I was hurt. I was real hurt.
Like, was that a big pivotal point?
I would say so. I remember a couple weeks before, I was sitting in my room, college dropout, working at a dead-end job I hated. Nothing to show for my life, really. And I prayed to God that night and I said, Lord, take me out of this situation. Please, I need your help. I need a change in life. And that's why I tell people now, I say, be careful what you pray for.
It's true.
Because regardless of what you think and you vision in your mind, that is not the same thing God is going to do. I'm telling you this right now. Yes, your prayers will be answered, but he's going to do what he feels is necessary, right? So, long story short, I'm in the back of the police car. It takes me to the station. I remember going in there, people yelling. It was like beyond scared straight. There's this dude in like a straight jacket and a wheelchair thing. He was screaming, "They're going to kill me. They're going to kill me." Not like that, but a lot more distressed and disgruntled. The sheriff's, I got scared, so I stopped walking. The sheriff pushes me in through the door. One of my friends that was with me, he got locked up too that night. Shout out to him. And I'm trying to get him closer to the Lord too. And I think it's working. But like you said, I barely failed the breathalyzer. I think I was a 0.08 exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So spent the night in jail, and I was just thinking the whole time, why did it never had to go like this? I've always, before then, I didn't even have a speeding ticket. I just never had to face that, But humans, we're stubborn, so get out of jail. I'm clean for a couple months, and then I'm gonna drink again. This was a second pivotal moment in life. I remember getting drunk and feeling an absurd amount of depression and anxiety like I have never felt before. And I felt horrible whenever I was drinking. And I just, I was like, let me just keep drinking. Let me, whatever. And I was just having these horrible thoughts in my head. Oh, man, I don't even want to utter those words from my mouth. But essentially, I was thinking about, taking my own life because I was just so hurt and disappointed in myself and where I was, and I felt such a low sense of self-worth, and that just added with the alcohol. And now I know that bad feeling, it was because it was God saying, no, don't do this, and I still did it. That was what that bad feeling was, because I still kind of get it to this day a little bit, right? So I'm drunk driving again like I didn't learn a thing. And it was a Thursday. And I'm driving down right there where where Market Street is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little neighborhood and a little bank over there. I take a left going towards Market Street. And then I feel something to the right of me as I pass Market Street. I pass that gas station right across the street from, you guessed it, Celebration Church. And I've never told anybody this story. I feel like a presence and all these cars in there. And I just hear subtle bass hits. Just real subtle. And I'm like, something's telling me in my mind. I'm just like, turn in, go inside. Go inside. It'll be okay. It'll be all right. That's what I remember thinking to myself. So boom, me, drunk than a skunk. Get out of my truck. Shut the door. I walk in.
And Officer Bruce is right there.
Officer Bruce is right there. Yes. He is right there, staring, giving me what I feel like was the evil eye. Because it's the police.
He was born with it.
Yeah, he has a very serious look on his face, and I walked the opposite direction because he sit. Anywhere knows where he sits. He sits at those little stools sometimes, or the little bar stools. I said, okay, I'm gonna go this way. So boom, I go in this way, and the service had already kind of started, and I see Pastor Keenan. Man, just a sermon he had that day, talking about how we are the ones that throw mud in our wells and we're constantly polluting ourselves. We do things that our flesh wants, but we don't do things that our spirit wants, and I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but that's just kind of what I got from it. And just, I started crying, break down crying, like crying. And then I remember Andrew, he came up to me. He told me to call him the ginger or something. Hopefully I got that right, dang. You're not a ginger, man. You a great soul. To this day, we don't even speak much, at all. But he came up to me and he prayed for me, bro. Something clicked that day. I don't even remember what he was praying for me. I just felt a sense of like acceptance and comfort and that feeling of it's gonna be all right, man. It's gonna be okay. You can get through this. Just walk with me. That's whenever my whole life changed. I started going there every week. I started attending House of Jireh on Sundays. And just trying to learn, And at that point, I would have never dreamed I would have even known who Trent was. People now I consider some of my close friends now, I see them every weekend, We've eaten meals together. Like, we've had fun, played Madden together. Like, but yeah, at the time, I never even thought I was going to be a part of a community like this. But whenever I started following God and I had a hunger for God, he started putting people in my life, just one after another, And first it just started with Andrew, and then Pastor Keenan, and then now I find myself signing up for a small group, and I didn't know what co-ed was. I thought it was like co-op, like a video game. Okay, we just whatever, clicked it. Best mistake I ever made in my life. Like, to this day, Trent is so cool, man.
Stop.
Debbie is so cool,
True.
And I look up to these people, that spirit that these people carry. I just respect them so much, And it's crazy that I'm here now on a podcast so randomly. But if you really have that moment and you feel like God has exposed himself to you and you really feel that light and that feeling, your life will 180 in a day. My whole life flipped, man. I have all these new friends now. I handle situations differently now. Like, I try not to come from a place of judgment and anger anymore, That's one of my hard stances. Like, because who am I? I always ask myself, I wake up every morning, I'm like, who am I? Nothing but no good sinner. But what am I not going to do? I'm not going to turn my back towards the light and face the darkness. I'm going to make the conscious decision to turn to the light, regardless of how you feel. Are you going to turn towards the light, or are you going to turn towards what feels good to us humans naturally, It's just crazy. I don't walk with constant fear. Whenever I started following God, things slowly started to fall into place for me. Like, this job that I did not like. I'm working there 12-hour days. I'm having to make excuses, and I almost lost this job too whenever I got my DUI, by the way, because I also had a marijuana possession charge as well. Go ahead and tack that on there real quick. Had a possession charge as well of some of the reefers, but yeah, nonetheless, I almost lost that job. That's also added to the reason why I just felt like at that time where the world was just crushing me.
Mm.
And then I went in that church drunk, very drunk.
Come as you are.
Yeah, in a sense, like I just showed up and it wasn't even a plan. I had no clue about any of this. I thought it was just a church sermon or something. I don't know what was even going on. Like, what is Celebration Church? It could have been anything. My eyes are fixed on God, and I want to be around God's people, the people that have that spirit in them, and they know the word and they're sharp. So I can sharpen my blade as well, Iron sharpens iron. So that's why I really respect, Trent once again and Devi for always like opening up their home and stuff, because that really like helped me a lot, because I was in a real sensitive state, you know, a couple, now I'm more solid, like I'm more firm, but for a while there I was a little, shaky. I'm a wobbler. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't have this community and they weren't constantly just speaking God's good name, just blessing me, like that right there is what really set the tone for me, like into this new year and for the rest of my life, like I don't get mad anymore. Like, well, I get mad, but I know how to deal with it now, I put certain, reactions into place to where I can be, whenever, like I was telling Trent the other day, like if I think something negative about someone, even if I think it, I say 3 positive things out loud about that same person, because boom, your whole perspective will shift. I advise anyone, if you feel something negative towards somebody, try that. Your whole perspective of them will shift like that. And like little things like that, just to keep that negativity and that evil off of me, because it's a spiritual warfare out here, man. All it takes is something as meaningless or is like little. Now what I see is little, but at the time whenever I was going through it, like life ending, which is ridiculous. Oh, so ridiculous. And that's why it hurts me to just even see old Colby, like, oh man, it hurts my soul sometimes, man. Seeing how I was and just seeing how I treated people and seeing how I treated myself. It's just like the way I hated myself, I projected that onto other people, And I just want to say to my old self, man, if it's going to be all right, walk with God, and God has never left you. His spirit is always there, and trust in him, have faith in him. Like they say all the time, it's a little thing at Celebration Church I picked on. Walk by faith, not by
sight.
Indeed.
I did not know this stuff, man. I'd like to send that little clip about you showing up Celebration Church over to Keenan. I think he would love that.
Yeah, and love that. The craziest thing about Pastor Keenan, I tried to talk to him, bro. I tried to, whenever it was his final sermon at Celebration. Ooh, man, I tried to talk to him, and I was about to start crying again, bro. I started looking up at the sky, because you know how them tears start coming, you start
flush them down,
like trying to get your eyeballs to absorb them or something. I don't know what it is, even though that didn't help. I was just lost for words, man. And he was praying for me, and he was like, "So what has been going on with you, man? Like what?" And then I was like, after hearing the sermon, I just felt so ashamed. Not like he was putting shame on me.
You felt convicted, not condemned.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bars.
Yeah.
Oh, I felt convicted, yes. I felt convicted. I was like, why? Why would I ever think about doing such treacherous acts to God's temple, which is all of us within us? Why would I ever, like you said, clean the temple? Like, oh man, I really needed that. I'm gonna start crying again. What? No, I ain't gonna cry right now. It's cool, but it's real. It's real. That's what I want to say to anybody, because at a certain point, the world tries to convince you that spirit is not real. Even though it's with you. I promise you, it's with you to this day, right now, as you sit here listening to this podcast sometime in the future. But the spirit is a real thing. It's alive and it's well. Once you feel that conviction in your heart, don't fight it, man. Let it be. Let it course through your veins. Have that spirit in you. Like, rise to the top. Walk with God. Fix your eyes on God and God's spirit, you know. Whether you see that spirit in other people, and of course the Bible, certain stories, testimonies, the spirit can dwell with anything that it sees fit, you know.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your testimony on here. I believe that people are going to be impacted by that. I know I was. I would ask you if there's any last words for the listener, but man, like, you just said spit it out. So, thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you really liked it, share it with somebody. Colby, you want to pray us out?
Yes, I will. Almighty Father, God in heaven, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, thank you for the fruits of your labor and the sacrifice that you, an innocent man, had taken for the souls of many guilty men. And your sacrifice will not be in vain, Lord, for you have won us over into the kingdom of heaven, and we will continue to praise your name through our testimony and through our righteousness as we walk through this world with you, Lord. Thank you for being with us in spirit. Amen.
Amen.